Well, it's a great big good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good day, good welcome from me, because I'm quite excited about what we're talking about this episode. How do you two feel, Ford and Devon? How are you both first, and then you can tell me how you feel about what we're about to do.
I'm very good. Thank you for asking me specifically.
Why'd you come in so quick? Just let it simmer.
Yeah, I always let it simmer. It makes it awkward every time.
I'm rubbish at it sometimes.
I'm doing very well, thank you. I've had a little cup of pasta, and it tasted like pigs in blankets.
Yeah?
Oh,
Fully nourished.
Yeah, and it's very festive.
Pigs in blankets?
Yeah, pigs in blankets.
Festive pasta dish?
Yeah.
Oh,
nice.
Yeah.
It wasn't really a dish. I mean, it was like a cup of, a cup of noodles, a cup of soup. It's the cup of pasta.
Okay.
Pigs in blankets.
Like a pot noodle?
Yeah, like a pot noodle, but in my mug. So, yeah, I'm feeling good.
Okay.
Yeah, thanks for asking.
Do you have a cup of something nice and cool or hot next to you?
No, it's all gone. It's all gone now.
Oh.
Yeah,
Oh.
I finished off my bottle of amaretto as well today, so I'm a bit sad about that. For some more.
Very good. And how about you, Ford? Are you fully nourished?
Yes. I'm not happy, Bob. Not happy.
Not at all. Why?
Why are you unhappy?
Dune was supposed to come out tomorrow.
The
And it's been,
Dune,
the June 2. We've been waiting for it for like, I don't know, like 2 years or something. And it's been pushed back to March. The cheeky boys.
Gosh, yeah, I did hear about that. That's bad news, isn't it?
I only found out the other day. It was just sad.
Disappointing.
That was an Incredibles reference, by the way.
Yeah, I got you.
Oh, was it?
Yeah.
I didn't catch that. I can't see that that's related to anything to do with the writer's strike or anything, can it? Because I thought they'd resolved that now, and it's already well written. I mean, if it was due to be released this week, then
yes,
it's well written. It shouldn't be.
It was the actors' strike as well, wasn't it? And obviously they roll out the actors to promote the film, so they were clearly a bit worried that if they didn't promote the film properly, they wouldn't. I don't know why, because who's not going to see this if they saw the first one, you know?
Yeah, but who saw the first one?
Yeah.
Is it worth watching? I've still not watched it. Is it worth watching?
Oh, it's fabulous. The best film of whatever it was 2 years ago.
Really?
Yeah, but you want to watch it with a massive screen, though, because it's a visual spectacle more than anything.
Yes.
Really?
Well, it was certainly mine and my brother's favourite film of that year. Was it 2 years ago? Probably.
I don't actually know. I'm just guessing.
And the story kind of didn't finish, did it? They left it hanging, ready for part 2.
Yeah, that's what makes this more galling. Is because they didn't actually make the first film. This is still a part of the first film.
Yeah,
basically.
And
because it's a two-parter.
They hadn't decided to make this second part until they saw how it did in the box office. So then they decided they were going to finish it.
It's on Amazon Prime. Might give that a watch finally.
Yes, certainly worth it.
This is all good David Bowie talk, isn't it?
Yeah.
I'd like to give it another watch. Well, we hadn't actually said what we were here for, but hopefully people will know because they'll have read it in the title. And we are here to put on our red shoes and dance the blues.
Oh, very good.
Yeah, that's it.
I thought that you'd like that because that's the sort of thing that you say, isn't it?
Yeah. Puns? You think I make puns? That's so rude.
And now it's time for music assignment chatting.
Okay, we are going to now have some discussion about David Bowie in general, probably, and then more specifically his album called Let's Dance. So, this album was released on the 14th of April 1983. Thank you, X-Ray on Amazon Music, for that important information. Here we go. The song peaked at the official charts, top 100, at number 1. So it got all the way to number 1.
Wow.
So here we go then. Just a little bit of background about David Bowie that I've got, and then you two can share some as well if you like.
Nice.
So David Jones, which was his original real name, took on the name David Bowie in 1966, a year before I was born, to avoid confusion with Davy Jones of the Monkees. That was a famous band around at that time. And the Monkees, if you didn't know, they were kind of an American version of the Beatles. So we're going back to that kind of era, really. Yeah. Let me see if I find another. David began writing and composing the music to a musical version of George Orwell's 1984 that was eventually scrapped. But some of the songs turned up on a 1973 album, Diamond Dogs, where there is a strong 1984 theme. And I haven't listened to that album. Maybe I should. He got nominated for Best British Male Solo Artist in 1985. David Bowie's first commercial breakthrough came in 1969, so a few years after he changed his name to David Bowie, with the song Space Oddity, which was rush released to coincide with the Apollo 11 moon landing. Interesting.
Yeah.
So that's all the kind of trivia facts I've got. What have you got, Ford? I'm sure, and maybe Devon, have you got anything to say about David Bowie before we start talking about this album?
I did love Space Oddity, to be honest. And that obviously came out long before this, and I'll share my thoughts on this, I suppose. But I really loved that one. That's good.
Okay, we're going to talk now about Let's Dance, shall we? The album. I'll just start then by saying a few thoughts about this album. So this was my era of David Bowie. I'd love some of his older stuff as well, but not a great deal. But when we got into the 80s, and David Bowie was one of those bands, or an artist, sorry, the big hits he had were amongst my favourite songs of whenever, that period when they came out. But do you know what? I was thinking about this earlier, what it is to be a David Bowie fan. Sometimes there's some shame to being a fan of the big artist names of the 80s, because the 80s, I think, get a bad rap, but it is my era. It is my favourite decade. For example, if I said to somebody I was a fan of Michael Jackson, there's a deal of shame in that nowadays because of some of the things that happened, and we don't need to go into that now. Also, another band that I know I like is Fleetwood Mac. Now, they have a bit of baggage that go with them. One thing I noticed, not many people, well, some people know their songs but don't realise that it's Fleetwood Mac who sang them when they hear the songs by Fleetwood Mac. And the other thing is that they also have a bit of reputation for using a lot of drugs in the 60s and the 70s and stuff. Maybe some of that hung on to their reputation. But with David Bowie, this is why I said all that, if you say to somebody you're a David Bowie fan, there's no baggage with it. Even though over the decades he has been reimagined so many times. He reimagined himself in image and style and sound, that there just seems to be nothing to be what's the word I'm looking for, embarrassed about being a fan of David Bowie.
He does look like a bit of a psycho in a lot of these photos I'm looking at.
Yeah, there are certainly some of his Ziggy Stardust period and others, but the David Bowie that I got to know and love was that well-dressed 80s clean cut, that image of just a great all-round pop star, really. But he had other eras before that were a little bit less or a bit more controversial. But what I'm saying is, even with that history, there doesn't seem to be any reason to feel ashamed to say I'm a David Bowie fan.
Well, give it time. Cancel culture will take care of everything by the end of before long. So
that was my first thought. So when I started listening to this album, I thought, and I can't remember I'm sure I have listened to this album before. The first three tracks are probably my favourite three tracks of David Bowie. You've got the beginning, Modern Love.
Yeah.
No, is that right?
Yep.
Oh no, does it start with China Girl? For some reason,
the first track on side one is Modern Love. Then it's China Girl, and then it's Let's Dance.
So this reference to side one and side two, is this it's a record situation, presumably?
I guess so. Yeah.
Nice. Okay. Cool.
So there are 8 songs on this album, aren't there? The runtime of 39 minutes. So yeah, Modern Love, China Girl, and Let's Dance. So I'm thinking, wow, we're in for a treat here. And then from then on, they're less well known. So the big hits are at the beginning of this album. Yeah. So that's really my first thoughts on this.
Yeah, okay. Modern Love. I don't know if you want to go step by step, but I have something to say about Modern Love. So
go on then. Go for it. Yeah.
I found his voice very breathy, particularly in that one. I'm not a fan of that melodic sort of, I don't know. It's a weird speaking, singing, tired sort of sound. I'm not a fan, but yeah. Okay. But I did enjoy that song, but I'm not sure why it's considered really, really good. I like the music, I suppose.
Yeah. Any thoughts, Devon? What?
Yeah. I mean, isn't that, can I say the same for the whole album?
It's possible I just got used to it, but no, I thought it was particularly prevalent in that one.
Right.
I don't know if I'm wrong here, but I did appreciate the prominent drum and bass, and it could be a bit simple at times. It felt like two different drummers and bassists, because sometimes it's really, really strong stuff, but then sometimes it's a bit weak. I thought, okay.
I think particularly these three, the sound is very distinctive. They're quite different from each other, but they're still very definitely David Bowie, aren't they? And his voice varies quite dramatically between songs. Sometimes you've got that very deep sound to his voice, and then other times he's much higher pitched, but very definitely David Bowie, whichever, it's interesting to hear. But I wondered if I could ask this question. When you hear a track and you might not know it, can you tell which decade it's from? Can you tell an 80s track normally if it comes on the radio?
Usually I can.
What makes it sound 80s?
It's very synthy. And it's
I was going to say that.
It's quite punchy as well at the same time.
Yeah.
And the samples, the technology behind the samples are quite distinctive.
I wondered about drums as well, whether the drums being quite pronounced.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's specifically 80s, but it seems that way for me. But generally, no, I can't diagnose what decade a thing's from. But I could with it
as well. Though the structure is it seems to be quite consistent for a lot of 80s pop. The flow of the songs. It feels very similar to.
That's interesting to because I wondered if there's something to the sound of the instruments that are prominent in these tracks. I can hear a lot of bass guitar.
I did enjoy that.
Yes, and that really resonates with me. I love that sound, and I know you're a bass guitar player, so I'm sure you do too, Ford. But I didn't know if that's what makes it sound 80s. Later on in music history, so go into the 90s and the noughties, you've got some really thumping bass, but does it rely more on drums to give you that bass tone, sound, note? Whereas in the 80s, it was predominantly the bass guitar that gave you the bass sound. I'm guessing, it's just an observation that I thought, I wonder if that is true or not. It'd be interesting to hear somebody else's opinion on whether I've kind of picked up on whether that's what makes this sound an 80s sound.
Yeah, definitely could be one of the things. Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah. And I know the synthesizers obviously were new technology in the 80s.
Yeah.
And so they did go a bit over the top with the use of them.
Yeah.
And David Bowie was particularly interested to experiment, I think, with new sounds. So once the technology was available, he was very much involved in it. So
his credits for this album is, of course, lead vocals and, as you might guess, producer, but also engineer, assistant mixing, and horn arrangements. So that's his credits for this year. But interestingly enough, unlike a lot of his other albums, he didn't actually play any instruments at all.
Okay, that's an interesting fact. I didn't know that. Yeah, because he is a great musician as well as a good singer.
I think it's just the one album that he didn't actually play anything, but he was obviously an engineer and assistant mixing, apparently for the samples and for the synth things like that.
Very good.
So for China Girl, I don't know if you guys had any thoughts on this one.
Oh, I think he goes deep voice in this, doesn't he?
This was Iggy Pop.
Yeah.
So he didn't write this, did he? I think Iggy Pop wrote this.
Okay.
The lyrics.
I didn't know that, but that's interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, I thought that this one specifically, the drums and bass felt a bit subpar to me. I didn't really find that particularly enjoyable, but yeah, a nice guitar though. Good. Yeah. Good guitar work.
I like the shut your mouth bit.
Yeah.
It's quite, and I'm not easily moved by a male singing voice, but it does, I can see that the girls would like that. If you know what I mean.
Yeah. I know what you like.
It's quite seductive, isn't it? Yeah.
No comment.
Yeah, I didn't think you wanted to comment on that one.
I don't remember feeling that way, but great.
No, okay. I mean, he's obviously talking about his relationship with a China girl, isn't he? A girl from China.
Well, interestingly, I I heard a rumor, a hearsay, that apparently the guy who wrote it was actually writing it about drugs, and the whole China Girl thing was just a cover.
Yeah. Well, China is another name for heroin, isn't it? Yeah.
Oh, well, there you go.
Yeah.
I guess that makes sense.
China White, Mother Pearl. Yeah.
That sounds like another lyric to an 80s song.
It is, yeah. A Grandmaster Flash, Furious 5 song.
White Lines.
Yes. Yeah, White Lines, Don't Do It. Yeah. Which was anti-drug song, not a pro-drug song. So, well, it's in the title, and it Don't Do It. Anyway, we're not onto that, but you could be right. The reference to China Girl could be to do with drugs, couldn't it? Yeah. I'm going to have to go back and re-listen to that now with that in mind. But he seems to be having a conversation about a girl, that's all. So,
I'd have to go back through the lyrics and think about that.
Yeah. And then, of course, Let's Dance, the title track of the album, seated right there at number 3 spot. But I love that song. Yeah.
I know it's a classic, but it's far too long.
My goodness. Like 7 minutes and 37 seconds.
7 minutes is too long for a song.
Yeah. But it's great, isn't it? It's great.
I guess.
It's been in my head ever since I listened to the album, just that song.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's one that I know the most because it's most popular.
Yeah.
But it's very sticks in your head, I think.
Yeah, I could just do without the long instrumentals, though. I just don't need it.
Okay. Well, I've listened to the whole album about 3 times today while I've been working.
Oh, well.
And it puts a spring in my step when these first 3 tracks come on. I'm working harder, more if I'm driving more vigorously, not dangerously, more assertively, probably. Yeah. But it's funny how music has that effect on you, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But for me, of course, it's having probably a different effect because it's transporting me back to my youth, and that's what music does. You know, it gives you like time travel, I suppose. You know, so not that I'm really reliving a specific memories, but I'm just where I was in the 80s, in a very different time in my life. So I'm thoroughly immersed in these tracks that we're talking about at the moment. Yeah.
I think to throw back to what Ford's complaining about the really long instrumentals. I think that's a bit of a staple with what we were saying before of 80s songs. They don't really do that anymore, but there's many songs in the 80s have very long instrumentals where it's kind of just people are on drugs and just dancing to the same the same beat over and over again.
Midway through,
exactly.
True. Yeah.
So that's quite prevalent in the 80s songs, I think.
I apparently wasn't listening to it right. I'll come back later. I'll let you know.
You should take some drugs while you're listening to it. See if No, don't do that.
No.
Yeah, very true. Yeah, good. So are you with me on these first 3 tracks to one degree or another?
I am.
Yeah. I like the first one.
Yeah.
That's about it.
All right. Okay. I'm sorry to hear that.
The others are fine. It's just maybe because I've heard it for so long, you know. It's too in the culture for me to really appreciate it.
But you're much more invested, are you, Devon?
Yes. Yeah.
Definitely. Okay. So what can we say about from track 4 onwards then? To me, these were new material. I mean, I'm ashamed to say it. I must have heard this album before, I'm sure, but I'm less familiar with these next 5
less memorable
tracks
for me as well.
Yeah.
For whatever reason.
So Without You, it was different. It was very odd, but I didn't really have much to say about that.
How was it odd?
Well, it starts with him super high voice for one.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's the range he's got. You see,
it's pretty impressive, to be fair. Yeah,
you think of how deep he is in China Girl, you know, riddle, and then in Without You, totally different. Yeah,
at least there's a bit of diversity within this album, which I can definitely give him props for.
Yeah.
Do we want to move on to the next one, or have you got anything?
Can do. I've got nothing to add, really. To be honest, I've enjoyed listening to them, as I say, the last 3 times through during the day today, but they grew on me more and more as I heard them. Some of the lyrics were very interesting, especially, I mean, Criminal World track 6 was an interesting lyrical song. I forget now why it spoke to me so much, but
I think Criminal World is my favorite.
Really?
Yeah, great bass, great drumming. Yeah, I really like it. The one thing I always hate for any song is when they fade it out at the end. It's embarrassing. Why do people do it?
Mm.
You can't figure out how to end your song. You're not a good songwriter. And end of. It just go and obviously always before the fade out, it just repeats and repeats and repeats. And I hate repeats as well. That's my other niggle. So yeah. So
that's interesting.
It's sad that my favourite song. They had me all the way up to that fade out. It's a shame.
Oh,
maybe you just need to make an edit of the song.
Yeah, I'll make an edit. It just ends.
Yeah. So in new music that's produced today, then that happens less, I guess.
Yeah. I've noticed it happens a lot less.
Current. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it's very.
Does it
very
happen
cheesy.
at all?
Not with the popular stuff.
No.
It's very cheesy and it's considered quite bad.
So somebody like Ed Sheeran isn't fading out the ends of his tracks. Okay. No. Yeah, it makes you wonder why it was a big thing back then, wasn't it?
I think you might have a point where it takes a bit of effort to figure out how you want to end the song. Whereas if you just fade it out on the melody, then you're in beans, aren't you? Because you're going to get out jail free card.
Yeah, I guess.
This only happens, obviously, with studio work, because obviously if they're performing live on stage, they can't just fade out, can they?
That's a good point. Maybe I just listened to a bad version.
Yeah. You know, if a song is being performed live, what they're going to do? Sort of,
they just walk off halfway
down. Yeah, walk out. You know.
Yeah.
No, they usually end on a big blow, don't they, with the guitar and a jump down and whatever. If that's if a song suits it, but yeah.
What do you guys think to Ricochet? Do you have anything to say about that?
Well, only that Trinity might like that because that's her game name, isn't it? Yeah.
Yes, and it's also a song by Starset. It's a song by Taylor Swift. It's that name's been used.
Okay.
But no, it was okay.
Yeah.
It was a bit weird though. Halfway through, they just shout out "Ricochet." It's not the end of the world. Randomly, it's a bit weird. But they do have a cool drum pattern on that one. Worth listening to.
Very good. It's interesting to hear your analysis of these. It's very good.
Yeah, I did write some notes, but yeah.
Did you listen to it in a dark room? Obviously not if you were writing notes. Yeah, with headphones on really loud, no?
Yeah, I did with headphones really loud. It's not the way I normally like to listen to songs, but I thought I would this time.
Well done.
Wow.
Did you hear things you hadn't noticed or might not have noticed?
I appreciated music a lot more that way. I've never noticed before, but I don't really care for music, maybe because I just don't listen to it loud enough. It's really weird.
It's just interesting how much more you notice in the background, isn't it, when you've got something turned up and you can't hear any other thing else in your environment, which headphones give you that experience, don't they? Yeah. And without distractions, that's why, so you're not distracted visually as well. Then you can be transported to the place that the artist wants you to be while they make their performance.
Yeah.
But I wasn't able to do that with this because I was working today. But yeah,
sad.
But I'm glad actually. I think now listening to everything that you two have both said and what you might still yet say, I will do that. I think I will need to sit down in a dark room with my headphones turned up loud. Anything else to add, either of you?
Cat people again. They fade out and it constantly repeats, putting out the fire or putting out fire. This is that's a double whammy of horror for me. Shake It. Yeah, that's heavy on the synth keyboard. That was pretty impressive. I don't like it. I don't like it.
Impressive, but you don't like it.
I respect him for trying different things, but no.
He's a varied musician, isn't he?
Yeah.
Artist, yeah.
Yeah,
musical
I guess.
Artist, yeah.
And then the last one's Under Pressure, isn't it?
That's not actually in the original album.
No.
It was included in the re-release of the album on CD as a bonus track by Virgin Records in 1995.
That's what I thought. Because when I listened, and I come back to being annoyed with Amazon Music, when you listen to an album, you don't know when you've got to the end of the album unless you're looking at your screen because it just goes on to play another track. And I think Under Pressure did come on because it is only an 8-track album, isn't it?
Yeah, until they re-released the album. So if you're listening to the 1995 version, then it's on there as a bonus track. Yeah.
So I'd rather it just stop and then I know the album's finished, or go back to the beginning of the album and play again if I've got it on repeat.
Yeah.
When one of my playthroughs, it started playing Duran Duran Girls on Film. I thought, I didn't know David Bowie did this. No, of course it's not a David Bowie song. It's a Duran Duran song. And I looked at my phone. Oh, now you're playing other music that I haven't asked you to play. Which is rather annoying. And don't do that, please, Amazon Music, if you're listening.
Jeff Bezos, if you're listening.
Yep.
Yeah, and I'm total for. Okay.
Nice. So that's all the songs.
Should we say? Well, I know we've been saying what we think.
Yeah, I mean, well, some people say this is a David Bowie sellout, isn't it? He goes commercial, basically. I've read. I had a quote here from Stephen Edward Einwein. You know what? I have a quote here from a critic. It says, where does the quote start? Flip. Yeah, the critic felt that the album's 3 hit singles were catchy yet distinctive pop songs, while the rest of the album was unremarkable plastic soul, indicative of Bowie's entering the songwriting slump.
Oh dear.
So yeah, that's pretty harsh words from a music critic.
Being a sellout and more to do with him being trash.
Well, maybe, but it goes on to say later that he was pleading to the shameless love of the mass market.
Yeah, okay.
But I don't know if that was actually true or whether this guy just thinks that's why it's bad. But I quite like it. To be fair, I haven't listened to much of his stuff before this, so I couldn't say whether it's more poppy than usual.
Yeah,
but then again, pop is good because people like it, isn't it?
I think this was the period he was in. Yeah, the period where he did become more mainstream pop. Yeah. But that doesn't mean you're selling out. I don't think it means you're adapting. You're exploring his art. I mean, another band that was criticised for doing that is, and I thought about it earlier when I was listening to this, was Blondie. Blondie was started off as a punk rock band and then became a much more pop band. So, but that's fine. They're growing, they're evolving, aren't they?
Well, it depends. I mean, if they've lost it, sorry. If they've lost their distinctive sort of what makes them them and they're applying more to the norms of the general schmo, then I guess, yeah, you could probably say they were selling out. But I think this was still definitely David Bowie, No one's mistaking this for anything else, are they?
Absolutely not, no.
Yeah, so I don't know if that's fair, but yeah.
Harsh, I think. Anyway, shall we, do you want to rate it now? Or what do you want to do next?
Yeah. How many
final thoughts? Go on.
How many fade outs out of 10 do you give this? I didn't have anything funny.
I thought you might use a dancing shoes thing. I've already done that.
Yeah, you beat me to
it. Yeah. How many red shoes out of
on the dance floor? How many shoes on the dance floor? There we go.
Yeah,
we'll workshop it. Yeah, Devon, what do you think?
I'm gonna have to give this a 7.5.
Okay.
Yeah,
that's reasonable.
I think it's definitely enjoyable, but I kind of agree. Once you get to the second side, it kind of falls off and becomes a bit samey.
Wow.
You kind of get lost on where one song ends and another one starts. But the first side I found really good.
That's a pleasing rating, I think.
Good.
Yeah, I didn't like the majority of these, I have to say, but I can appreciate it's good. There's great guitar, especially bass and drum I like, but I can tell the lead guitarist is pretty good as well. Great work. This album clearly made David Bowie's career. I think he soared after this. Again, maybe because of the aforementioned pop, whatever. I don't really have much more to say than that. Probably a 7 out of 10, I guess.
Oh, that's better than I expected from you, from all the things you said.
Yeah.
You're very generous. I don't want to talk you down again. Like
you get talked down.
We're surprised with your rating, and then you go downwards.
Yeah. Maybe it should be a 6.
You only liked it half a point less than Devon.
Yeah.
And so
okay,
he really liked it.
Yeah, you've succeeded. It's a 6. It's 6 for me.
Dear.
We did it again.
Yep. I quite like his voice. That's the thing. But the rest of it's kind of meh, in my opinion.
Okay. Yeah, I could listen to his voice all day long. And I have actually gone to bed with just play David Bowie music from my Echo device and with my headphones on. So I'm listening to it while I'm asleep all night long. And occasionally you wake up from your deep slumber and you go, oh, I don't know this one, or this famous one, and it's from all his material. He's got a massive catalogue of material, hasn't he?
Yeah.
To be fair, we got this far in and we haven't actually praised his singing at all. So I do think it is standout.
I mean, he was producing records up until his death. A Black Star, his last album, I think he released like a 2-3 days before he died, if I remember correctly.
Wow.
Yeah, which is very sad. It's an unusual album. He kind of returned to being a little bit more weird towards the end, like the way he was when he started.
Huh.
I mean, have you ever listened to the Laughing Gnome song?
No.
I don't
No?
think so.
You have to get Echo to play the Laughing Gnome. That's a bizarre song, and he regretted making it. It was one of the first songs he had released on record.
Wow.
Anyway, yeah.
I have to cue that up. Nice.
Dreadful song, yeah. Anyway, so I haven't done my number. I think I'm going to give it 8.5 out of 10.
Wow.
Because I absolutely loved listening to these, particularly the first side, as you said, and the ones I wasn't so familiar with also grew on me. So yeah, thumbs up from me.
Very
I
good.
think. Yeah.
Great.
Thank you, guys.
Well done.
I think we've thoroughly reviewed a bit of David Bowie and that particular album, haven't we?
Sounds good to me.
Yeah.
Let's set your next assignment and say goodbye.
Okay, so thank you very much, gentlemen. We're going to now just mention what's next. I think it'll be Ford bringing a segment.
Yes.
What we've between ourselves have started to refer to as a deep dive. Officially, it's not called that, but we'll be having a deep dive into a new subject in our next episode. And I don't know if Ford wants to tease us with what that might be about.
Oh, you'd like a tease, would you?
Well, you made me tease when I had to do mine last time.
I'm a little torn, you see, so I'm going to let you guys choose. This is a little behind the scenes, how the sauce is made for the listeners.
Okay.
So, number one, we can do a best and worst film casting. I don't know if you're interested in that. Or I thought I could walk you through a role-playing game.
Whoa.
So,
wow.
So, not D&D, but D&D-esque sort of role-playing game.
Yeah.
A quick 20 minutes.
Yeah.
So,
dear.
what do you guys think?
Yeah, it's like, yeah.
Oh, that would be different, wouldn't it? Both those options would be different because they kind of connect to the other aspects of what we do as a podcast. So yeah,
Mm.
Yeah.
you two decide. I'll go along with whatever you two decide.
The second one.
Sounds like
Yeah.
Devon's chosen. Okay, so next episode is going to be a role-playing game episode.
Wow.
Indeed. Oh,
It's going to be harder for me. I'm going to have to. I've never DM'd before, so we'll see.
and can you do it in voice only?
But it's all in your brain, so yeah, I should hope so.
Okay.
Yeah.
I thought you sit around a table normally, don't you?
You don't have to. Well, with a very in-depth like Dungeons and Dragons type role playing, then you've got your character sheet and all these stats and these turn-based thing. But you can just do a kind of story where it's like, okay, my character is this, and then you just go through and try and do an adventure.
We're not going to have to do any combat, I guess. You kind of need a board if you're going to do combat, but unless I'm extraordinarily descriptive. But no,
It'll be
should be
interesting
good
to hear.
Yeah.
And then also, we just like to highlight that our next We Review episode will be a game. So we've come around to playing a game together again. And there is an opportunity for you to vote, dear listener, by clicking in the link in the description. It will take you to a poll. Is that the right way of saying it? And I think the three choices that you have on there, I know you do it all, Ford, so I haven't checked it out recently, is another Minecraft challenge. We did one before, didn't we? Or a League of Legends, another famous, well-known game, isn't it, that I've never played?
Yeah.
Or one I have played, SimCity Build It. And if nobody chooses that this time, you're going to take that off this list because it's been there, I think, since we began doing this podcast. So it's had its chance. So please, this is your last chance, listener, to play SimCity Build It. Yeah.
It's a real plea. Okay.
And then you could stick Train Station 2 in there instead. Because that's my other go-to game.
Nice.
Right, so I think we're going to wrap it up at that, shall we? So don't forget, you can find us on all major podcast platforms and on YouTube. And please do go on there and rate and review this podcast. It really does help us to increase our output, well, not so much output, but our listenership. People will find us more easily. And you can also message us on that horrible app that used to be called Twitter when it was a good app.
Ouch.
But now it's called something else. At Theory of Anything with a TING on the end. But better off, I think, just drop us an email at theoryofanything@hotmail.com. And we'd look forward to hearing from you. Any comments you've had on what we talked about today or any other episode would be good to hear. Thank you. Any other thoughts, boys?
Thank you so much for sticking with us.
Yeah.
I think that about wraps it up then. So that's it. See you in a bit.
Bye.
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 You don't have to include it if you don't want to.
I like the byes at the end. Please keep them in.
I always think it's worth saying just in case.
There's no point in us having a catchphrase at the end of this if we're going to buy it.
The bye bit follows on nicely.
Uh-huh. Okay.
Can't wait to see if you leave this in.
I'm not. I'm against it on principle.